Hi, everyone, and welcome to the End of Life Journey and Beyond, the Sands of Time. My name is Lisa Strahs-Lorenc, and I am a bereavement support person. And today, well, first, let me say hi to Susan. Hey, Susan, how are you today?
Hi, Lisa. Welcome home from your vacation.
Thank
My
you.
name is Susan Capurso. I'm a legacy specialist, and I'm so happy to be here. We have a special guest for you to meet today.
We do. We have Lisa Lee from Nicole's Hope Inc. And I want to tell you how I met Lisa, and then we'll get to know her and everything about her story. So I do go to the villages in Florida for 2 months. And while I was there, I love doing a lot of charity work. And one of the charities organization clubs, they call it down there, is called Dolls from the Heart. And they make dolls from scratch, the body. I do the clothing. They're really beautiful dolls. They usually get sent to orphanages and to other places where children would appreciate the dolls. And Lisa came in to one of our sessions, and she talked about her organization. She took, I believe, 10 dolls. And I went up to her afterwards and wanted to learn more about her and her organization. And she has such an important story to tell. So, Lisa, thanks so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Sure. Lisa, start
Thank you,
with
Lisa.
Sure. Lisa, start with your story and your background.
Okay, so Nicole's Hope began many years ago. We were dealing with my daughter, who was 13 years old at the time. She was a basketball player and a eighth grade student, and she was this gorgeous blonde with her long blonde hair, just coming into her own. She had finally started blooming because she was always so painfully shy. And she started playing basketball, which was shocking to me because she would never put herself out like that, but she didn't. She started getting good. Unfortunately, she started coming home with bruises on her arms. And silly us thought, well, you know what? She's a good point guard. Maybe all the girls are just going after her. She's so good. This is a mom talking. And they didn't go away. And then she started coming down with strep throat and bronchitis and all these different things that we just couldn't get a handle on. Finally, a doctor said, let's do some blood work. And within an hour, they were telling us to take her to an emergency room. She was diagnosed with leukemia. She was 13. And by the time she started her journey, she was already so sick that we went to a small hospital in Albany, and they treated her wonderfully. But she just never really got better. She spent 4 years struggling. She ended up with 9 surgeries,
Oh,
over 500 days in the hospital. That was both of us because I wouldn't leave her for a second. All kinds of procedures, blood transfusions, platelet transfusions, bone marrow aspirations. She finally went into remission, and we had about 2 months where we could plan a trip. She was a planner, so we planned this trip to go. We were afraid to really go anywhere that was a commitment and we didn't know anybody. So we went to Las Vegas, Nevada, because my best friend lived there and they had a beautiful big house and I knew we'd have support and, we could. Well, she planned this trip, every minute of it. She had all of her clothes lined up with her matching earrings and her shoes, and she just lived for this trip. So we get on the plane. It was just me and my 3 kids. I also have identical twin boys who were 4 years younger than her at the time. And we get on the plane and we land in Chicago. And my son, Jeff, said, I don't feel very good. I'm like, okay. By the time we landed in Las Vegas, he was running a fever of 104 and he had mononucleosis, which in a child who's neutropenic can kill them. So we ended up getting 2 hotel rooms with a door in between. And Jeff and I stayed in one, and Greg and Nicole and her dad stayed in the other. And we didn't have a trip at all. So by the time we got home, we noticed that Nicole had petechiae all over her arms. So we already knew that she was relapsing. At that point, there was really nothing else to do except prepare her for bone marrow transplant. They gave her a brand new chemo protocol that put her in the ICU for 56 days on a ventilator. Somehow they told us every other day that she was not going to make it through the night. Somehow she did because she was tough as nails. But she made it through long enough to get her to bone marrow transplant. She went through bone marrow transplant, which, if you've ever experienced it, is the most difficult thing you can put a person through and still survive. She survived it. She stayed in remission for 2 months and then bounced out of remission, and she died a month later. During her treatment, she was the most amazing person. She became an adult overnight. She became an artist and a crafter, and she wrote a book of poetry. She made bears for all the other kids in the hospital, which is so funny that now we're doing bears and dolls and things like that. But she was one of the older children in the hospital, so she was kind of like the mom there. And she made what was called her angel bears. They were little jointed bears that she would dress up all in lace and put them in those wicker chairs that was all dressed up in lace and beautiful bling, and give them to all the children in the hospital. So when she passed, I knew I had to do something. I think a lot of parents who go through the loss of a child, which is just incredibly difficult, has to do something big. I just always knew I had to do something big. So unfortunately, my career took a lot of my time, and I traveled, and it was stressful, and it was a, kind of a negative career. We dealt with law enforcement and alcohol and arresting people for drunk driving, and I had to do something. My sons, about 3 years after my daughter passed, they were now in 6th grade, and they came home one day and they handed me an envelope, and it had $300 in it. And they said, our teacher brought in a little girl from Siberia that her sister had adopted. Would you adopt a sister for us? And at first, it took my breath away, but I thought about it, and I thought, you know what? I can do this. It just so happened sometimes coincidences happen, and I totally believe in signs. My best friend in New York, who is a dermatologist, she was the doctor of the people who ran the adoption agency. And they just happened to have this little girl who was 3 years old in Siberia, and she weighed 18 pounds. And at 4 years old, they get moved from the baby orphanage to the 4 to 16-year-old orphanage. And they just knew she'd never survive. But this adoption family, they were 2 lawyers. They already had 8 children because they had adopted 5 Siberian children, because every time they went over there, they couldn't not come back with children. So they couldn't fit anymore in their house. So somehow we did it. 6 months later, no problems, no issues. And this is where signs come in, because I just know that this was otherworldly. We brought Abby home with us. She was now almost 19 pounds, but she was almost 4 years old. She had a long laundry list of issues, supposedly. And when we brought her here, there was nothing wrong with her. She's the most healthy person I've ever met in my life. She now is a real estate agent in Manhattan, and she teaches tennis, pickleball, gymnastics, and the real estate business.
Wow.
So it was so otherworldly that the day we brought her home, the next day, we're sitting on the couch, and she's in between my 2 boys who absolutely loved that child and spoiled her rotten. she's sitting in between them. And I said to my boys, I said, doesn't she look like somebody? And my son Greg said, don't you know? And I said, no. And he got up and he went over to my daughter Nicole's curio cabinet full of precious moments dolls. And he picked one out of the 56 dolls she had, and he brought it over and he said, she looks just like this. And she did. She had high cheekbones, big almond-shaped eyes. And I turned it over and it said, you have touched the lives of many. Well, that is on my daughter's headstone. So
Wow.
that's why I believe in signs.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
I do too.
Wow.
she was just the perfect addition to our family.
Mm.
And they spoiled her every day. She's not married yet because she will never find anybody who spoils her the way that my boys. But she's awesome. So that was the one big thing that I had to do. And then as soon as I retired, I had to do a nonprofit, because when you sit in the hospital for 500 days, you think of all the things that are lacking in cancer treatment. You think of, how do you pay for bills? How do you get transportation when you already didn't have enough money to make it through the month? How do you get daycare for your other children when you have to be in the hospital? All these things, there's a million things that parents struggle with while they're sitting in a hospital with their child who's so sick, you can't leave them. So that's where Nicole's Hope was born. I retired in 2017 and I began doing all the paperwork, and it went very well. And I opened Nicole's Hope in New York. I lived in upstate New York, and we were working with Albany Medical Center and the Ronald McDonald House, and that was it. And then we moved down to Florida, and now we are in Albany Medical Center, Ronald McDonald House in Albany, Ronald McDonald House in Gainesville, Shands Medical Center in Gainesville, Tampa Children's Cancer Center, St. Joseph's Hospital, Johns Hopkins, a little bit at Sloan Kettering, and a lot at New York Presbyterian. So we've been very busy. And what we do is whatever it takes. Like right before this, I was on the phone paying for a hotel for a little boy who just finished his treatment. He's 9 years old, and now he's going to get to go to Disney because we were able to pay for his hotel. We're actually splitting it with another organization because you can imagine how expensive Disney is. So that's what we do, whatever it takes. Gas. I have sat on my computer and grocery shopped for families. I've paid to fix cars. We just recently paid rent for a man in New York City who he's a single dad, and his daughter has osteosarcoma, which is a terrible cancer. And he had the choice. They were gonna be evicted because he hadn't been able to pay his rent. So he knew he had to go to work to pay his rent, but then he can't get his daughter to the hospital for her treatment. So he was constantly trying to figure out what to do. So we paid his rent, so that he can get his daughter to the hospital. Just simple, basic life things, paying for gas and electric, paying for a cell phone because you need a cell phone. We put tires on a car for one of our families that has been, the little girl is now 9 years old. She's been sick since she was 2. And she's jazzy. She's jazzy to everybody. She's got what's called neuroblastoma, which is another horrible cancer. And they're running out of treatment for her. So she had to go to the Children's Hospital, Pennsylvania or Philadelphia, and they had bad tires and it's winter. So we put new tires on their car so they could at least get there. So that's what Nicole's Hope is. I call us tiny but mighty. We respond with a day. I'm always on my email. I'm always on Amazon. We adopt 45 children and 19 parents every year for Christmas, and we purchase all of their Christmas presents so that they don't even have to worry about it. All the presents arrive at their door. Parents just have to bring them in and wrap them. We even send the wrapping paper. So that's Nicole's Hope.
Amazing story, Lisa. So you fundraise, or how do you get the money for all these wonderful things that you do?
Well, we do fundraise. I mean, the Villages is a wonderful place because I have presented at every Rotary, every Lions Club, you name it, and they're all very generous. That wouldn't, unfortunately, cover a quarter of what we spend. I have a son and a brother who are in television and movies in LA, and my brother's on a lot of boards. And whenever he is on a board, they all have their philanthropy, and he'll always bring up Nicole's Hope. So I've been very lucky in that I get
Yeah.
large donations that way, because there's no other way you could do this through, Facebook donations or,
No.
it's hard, and that's the hardest part of this job, is raising funds. But right now I'm lucky, and, I'll do it until I can't. I just have to come to terms with that fact that you do it until you can't.
One more thing that you do that we were talking about, because there are other families who have lost their children like you,
Yes.
and that is the peer group. Why don't you tell them a little bit about that? Because that's another amazing thing you do.
It really is. I had seen it on Facebook. It was just a group that was looking for people who've been through childhood cancer that could support other parents who've been through child cancer. And they said, well, we're really not looking for people who've lost their children. We're looking for survivors. But they put me onto this group called Zach's Bridge. And Zach's Bridge was started by a husband and a wife who lost their son 4 or 5 years ago. And they were in the Boston area. And she became a social worker because of the social workers that they came into contact with at the hospital. And all it's a very simple idea, is just building a network of people who've lost their children, years ago, or even 2 or 3 years ago, and putting them in contact with people who have recently lost their children. It's completely free. You can speak via text, via phone, via FaceTime, via Zoom, whatever you want to do. And I was just recently, so you go through a training program, and once you graduate, they'll look for somebody who matches you in a lot of ways. Like, for example, age of child at death, the diagnosis, how many other children they have in the family. Is it a single mom or a single dad? Is it a married couple? So they try to match as best they can. And then you go from there. You just build a conversation, you build a relationship with that person, and you're just there on the other end of a phone. And completely free. We meet every 3 months to discuss where we're at with our support seeker. And so I finally received my first support seeker, and she's from the New York area. And she's lost her 16-year-old daughter to a horrible, horrible brain tumor. She's a beautiful girl and perfectly healthy. And right now, that's the hardest thing for her to deal with right now. It's only been 3 months. Actually, yesterday was 4 months. She just can't understand how a child goes from being healthy to dying within 8 months. It's beyond comprehension, and it's beyond normalcy, I guess. And she's had some really, really tough days, and I'll just get a text from her saying, I had a really hard day today. And we'll start a conversation, and we may talk on the phone, or we may text back and forth. One of the things that I did for her, I asked her to send me a picture of her daughter, and I made her a necklace like this. This is my daughter, Nicole. I don't know if you can see it. And I wear this, so I had one made for her so she could wear it, because she's back. She had to start back at work. And she works in a tough situation. She works in Harlem in special education. So, like an example is she said the other day, I had a terrible day. And I said, what happened? And she said, one of my students didn't come back from lunch. And so I immediately called the parents and they finally found him. It turns out he was going to commit suicide. I said, you saved that boy's life. Now he's going to get help. Now his parents know where he's at in life. So yes, it's a terrible day, but yes, you save somebody's life. So it's just that kind of stuff. It's simple. You're just talking to somebody who, without judgment, because it's really hard when you lose a child, you run into people on the street and they turn the other way. And you're left thinking, do they think I did this? Do they think this was my fault? It's most likely that they don't know what to say and they don't want to have to try to say something, but that's not what a person who's lost their child thinks. So it's, we can talk about those things. And sometimes we even joke about, I told her my story about with Nicole when, she went from this beautiful girl with long, beautiful blonde hair to not having any hair. She couldn't walk. She had vascular necrosis in her leg. She had lumps in her head, leukemic infiltrates in her head. And we would go to the mall and we'd sit in the middle of the mall and we'd make fun of all the people that walked by. And so I told her that story and I said, it was just to Nicole, it gave her because that's how she felt was, what's wrong with me? And now we would go and we'd laugh about somebody's choice of shoes or what dress they wore that didn't go with their sweater, and so we had a good laugh over things like that, because yeah, some of the things you laugh about when you're going through this are pretty darn dark, but you have to just to survive. So,
Lisa, what an incredible story. Really.
no, thanks.
I want to add a couple things here. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, you're so brave to share that story, and you've become even braver doing what you're doing for other people, and it's amazing, and it touches me a lot. So I appreciate you speaking with us today. And I keep saying 10 years since my husband passed, but it's 12 years, I think. It's 2014.
Yeah.
Right? So this
Yeah.
March on St. Patrick's Day will be 12 years. Well, since he passed, I started my volunteering efforts in doing different things. So I'm a hospice volunteer and a couple other organizations. But the first thing that I had looked into was the Make-A-Wish Foundation, right? And I looked into it, I called them, I got the information, and I don't remember why that didn't stick with me at the moment. I think because the hospice thing came up and a couple other things at that time. But, I'm thinking about what you're doing, and it's just, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful to be able to help people when they need it right now.
Mhm.
You're not making a last wish, which I love that. I love that organization for what they do. But this is so helpful, you know, and oh my gosh, even the part where you said, you have 45 families where you do their Christmas gifts. I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, I watched a Lifetime movie, and I don't know if you ever saw it, but this was what the woman did for her philanthropy because of the things that happened in her life. And that's what she did. She was a secret Santa every year and did exactly that to make sure that the children had their gifts. And she worked all year long just to be able to do that during the holidays because it's a lot more work than people think. And I thought that was so amazing. And I remember there was a short period of time, maybe 6 months, and I thought, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do and to make a difference. So you're encapsulating, quite a few things into Nicole's Hope, and it's just so amazing. And thank you. And you have to be proud of yourself. You know, you've been through so much. I know it doesn't feel like I need to be proud of myself, but yes, even with your other daughter, you know, and what you've did, huge things here, and you're making a difference in so many people's lives. So, from everybody out there to you, thank you, Lisa. Thank you.
I get more out of it than anybody could ever imagine. I can't imagine
Sure.
can't imagine not doing it. Absolutely.
Lisa, let's do your contact information for people who
Sure.
like it. Go ahead.
So I have a website. It's very simple, www.nicoleshope.com. I have a Facebook page. It's Nicole's Hope, comma, INC, period. My I'm always available by phone if anybody needs to reach me, if they know of children that are struggling, families that are struggling. My phone number is 518-312-3958. And, we do whatever we can.
Do you have email too, Lisa?
I do. It's also nicoleshope@yahoo.com. So if you got Nicole's Hope down pat, you can get a hold of me. And it's all on my website.
Lisa, are you still living upstate New York?
I'm not. We moved to Florida, but
That's what I thought you said.
we come up every year. My daughter's birthday is May 17th, so we come up on May 17th, and I stay until the middle of June because we do a pottery party at Ronald McDonald House up there. We deliver gifts to the hospital at Albany Medical Center. I also have a scholarship that my brother set up for my daughter at her school, so we award that in June. So I'm up there for at least 4 weeks. So we do all of our Albany stuff then. And pretty much everything else is done through Amazon and
So
Facebook.
it
And
sounds like, Lisa, it sounds like you um, deal a lot because you are upstate and you deal with in a lot of organizations and people in New York, right?
Mhm.
But then you're back. What city are you in Florida?
I'm in the Villages.
So you've reached out to many hospitals and organizations around you that you deal with. So do you help people if somebody called you from Illinois?
I would. The only thing that I have to do, based on my bylaws, is I have to get verification of need. So I work with either a child life specialist at the hospital or um, a director at Ronald McDonald House or a social worker at the hospital. And so we'll build a rapport through email. We do take very little of their time. And, once we build this rapport, then they'll, like, for instance, I just got an email a few minutes ago from one of the hospitals. It's a young girl who doesn't have much time left. And this breaks my heart because what she wants to do is go to the Red Lobster.
No.
So, so, I'm going to send her an e-gift card so she can take her whole family to Red Lobster, because she's out of treatment ideas.
Hmm.
So that's what it's all about.
Yeah, amazing, amazing work.
It's really just
So
little
you
stuff.
you are a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful resource to know. You know, I've learned it through all my networking and meeting people through this channel and more. I know of one organization who helps support parents who've lost a child. They're here on Long Island. I think he did our video at the beginning, Adam, right? When we
Yeah.
started.
Hope. So it's the
Um,
Hope Foundation.
Coke
It's
Foundation,
what?
right?
Yeah,
Hope.
Hope Foundation.
Oh,
So
okay.
they deal with loss, family loss.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, but just knowing you and talking to you today is a valuable resource for a lot of people. And it's just wonderful.
I want to talk
Yeah.
about legacy for a minute because, you, Susan, are a legacy specialist, and the legacy of Nicole living on through this organization and what she did and how creative she was and how continuing that is just such a gift. That's how we try to remember and keep our loved ones alive for us.
Exactly. It always felt like, no, she was too valuable to lose. You can't you can't lose somebody like that. I mean, she wrote me an entire book of poetry. One of them is published in the National Library of Poetry. It's called Looking Through a Window. And I feel like she knew that when she passed, I was going to fall apart, and she needed to write this book so that I could read it and learn how to go on, because her poems are titled Love, Heaven, Best Friends,
Wow.
Through a Window, Hope. I mean, it was all a lesson on how to go on without her. So it just made
That's
sense,
amazing.
you
So is
know.
there, can people get those poems? They
If
publish them?
you need, one of them is published in the National Library of Poetry, and that's in Washington, D.C. But if anybody wants her poem, Looking Through a Window is my favorite, and that's the one that's published, and it is just incredible. If you have time, I can read it to you if you want.
We would love that. We would love
Give me
that.
1 second.
Sure, sure. Incredible.
Hmm.
Yeah.
The last two lines of this poem are incredible. It's entitled Looking Through a Window. Looking through a window, there's a whole world to see. One point of view shows nothing but beauty, another shows misery. Looking through a window, things are not always as they seem. Sometimes they look like a nightmare, and sometimes like a dream. Is the sky clear and blue, or is it dismal gray? Are the birds out singing, or have they flown away? Looking through a window, everything is bright, but only if you choose to view things in their best light. Do the flowers wake to the glow of the sun, or do they look as if their blooming days are done? Looking through a window may make you feel depressed, but only if you don't see things when they are at their best. Is the world blessed by Mother Nature and her powers, or does the day seem to drag on for just too many hours? Looking through a window, all of your views can change. Things can seem so beautiful, or they can look deranged. Are the clouds out dancing or running away? Is the light breeze whispering, or has it run out of things to say? Looking through a window, there is so much to see. Which way will I view it? That is up to me.
Wow.
Oh
How
my gosh.
powerful is that?
That gave me the chills.
That would be a great poem for your sons.
That gave me the chills. I have to ask you this. So, have you published her books? The book that she wrote?
I haven't. I
Okay,
haven't.
so
Yeah, we can talk about
for
that.
another conversation, but I can help you self-publish that and put it on Amazon if you want help with that.
Okay. Okay.
How amazing.
I've always felt that they were like just for me, but this poem,
Yeah,
when I give out her scholarship every year, I give that to the student that wins it because it's so meaningful for a child going off to college to me, you know.
definitely.
And when you think she was 14 years old when she wrote that,
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Let her
where
build
she's,
her own legacy here.
I know, she's just had so much insight. That was the thing.
Definitely. You were blessed to have her in your life for as long as
I,
you did.
I was, I was.
Mm.
I hate to think that way because then you think, what are you missing?
Yeah. We just have to appreciate the moments that we had with the people that we have. You
Yeah.
know, life is short and we're meant to come here for a certain amount of time and live our stories and do something. And she's done amazing things
Mhm.
that are making a difference in so many other people's lives. She's
Yes.
already built that legacy, even though although it's your legacy. And you
Mhm.
need to document some of these things. But at the same time, you're building her legacy, which is so important for your children now and for their children and their children,
Mhm. Yes.
right? Amazing
Yes.
things are happening here.
Mhm.
But
Absolutely.
Wow. This,
document some of these things, get them down.
Yes. Yes, I do. I started a book. It's hard, but I have started. I have some pages. How's that?
You need some accountability. That's all you need.
I need
That's all
somebody
you
to
need.
help me. Yes.
I do
Thank
that
you.
too. if you need help. You need to
Oh, okay.
outline your chapters and you need accountability to get it done each month. And you will.
Yes.
You will.
Yes.
I've published 3 books by myself.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. And I thought I could never do it, but I did. And now it's easy. And
I've done
I could,
3 as well, and 2
yeah.
in
Wow.
memory of my husband.
Oh, that's
And it was
awesome.
just to raise money for an organization with this disease.
Oh,
And then I
okay.
do the walk and then I sell them, and all the money goes to them. I've never turned,
Yeah.
I never
And
gotten
that's
any
your
money.
motivation.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
That's what I have to do. I have to find that whatever motivation and yep.
But even her book of poems, I know you want
Yes.
to keep it personal, but
Mm.
that's
Yeah.
something that you can, offer to help raise money for the organization, but offer it to people who need it the most. Some of
Yeah.
these families that you're with. That's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
Okay, so is there anything else that you'd like to share with us today? You've shared so much already. I know you need to take a breath, but is there anything else you'd like to share with anybody watching our video today?
I think the only thing that I can share and I share with my support seeker is someday, if you've faced a devastating loss, someday you're gonna want to do something. You're gonna want to do something. Follow it, whatever it is. Can be small, can be big, whatever it is, just follow it because it'll make all the difference in the world.
That's right. And that's how Lisa met you with the dolls,
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
right?
Yep.
So that's just a piece of what you do.
Yep.
But that's
And
how
we're
she met you, and it led us to you today, and
yep.
hopefully be touching the lives of many more people after today.
Lisa, the
Yes.
other thing for me is that life goes on. It does not look
Yep.
like it's supposed to look, okay? But life
Right.
go on. You're proof. We're proof
Yep.
of that. And
I
it's so hard to see that when you're in it. It's just
exactly.
amazing that we all have incredible resilience and strength that we never knew we had. All of us.
I think that's the best part of Zach's Bridge is just putting you in touch with someone who does not think that they're going to face another day because of their depression and their grief. And that was the first thing I told my support seeker is, I'm a lot of years out and I'm still breathing, you know.
Yeah, and we've talked also about triggers and stuff. You celebrate her birthday. I believe in that. I believe in anniversaries and all, because
Yeah.
it keeps the memory of that person there with us. That person
Yes,
is always there in some
absolutely.
way. So that's
Yeah.
such great proof to live on like that.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Lisa, this has meant so much to us that you can,
Oh, I'm so glad.
I know
Thank
how
you.
many lives you're going to touch with this. People going through so many things and they absolutely believe they're alone. They believe that there is nobody else that understands what they're going through. And here you are reaching out to these people. So
Yep.
we,
Yep.
we thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was so nice meeting you, and I
It's very
appreciate
nice.
everything you're doing.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you if you want a copy of that poem, I'm happy to send it to you.
Oh, that's
Oh, wonderful. That would be wonderful if you can, because that's absolutely beautiful.
nice.
Great. Thank you.
I can put that as part of the information as well.
Okay.
I had the
Thank you.
chills. I
Yeah.
had the chills the entire time you were reading that.
Such insight
It,
Amazing.
from a young
it's
person.
yeah. Well, a young person who's faced death, that's the thing.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's where it came from. That's absolutely when you meet children undergoing treatment for cancer, you'll never be the same because a 5-year-old
Hmm.
is incredible. They're 5 years old and they tell you what medications they take, what their dosages are, what their blood type is, and it's
Wow.
crazy when you think
It's
about
another
what
world that a lot of us will never experience or who haven't. It's a
exactly.
completely different world.
Yes. And I hope people
Wow.
stop having to join it.
Unfortunately, as human beings, I think that that's what we're meant to go through on this planet Earth that we were sent to until
Yes.
we go back home. And some of us have longer stories than others, but in your daughter's story, she's making a difference every day
Yeah.
in your life,
That's the
right?
goal. Yep.
That's the goal.
Yep.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Lisa.
Thank you
Lisa,
both. And
Lisa.
thank you.
And we wish you, your organization, and your family all the best.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.